and welcome to the Blindfold Chess Podcast.
This week, we are looking at the first national German champion, a two-time Soviet champion, a two-time World Championship challenger, and someone who was ensnared in two different world wars, Efim Bogoljubov. Efim was born in Kiev in 1889 and learned how to play chess at the age of 15. At the age of 18, he began taking the game more seriously, that he dropped out of his agricultural program at the Polytechnical Institute in order to focus on chess. In 1911, he tied for first at the Kiev Championship, which was his first major tournament. Then in 1914, he played in the Mannheim tournament in Germany in July. Little would he know that playing in that singular tournament at the age of 25 would have a cascading effect on the rest of his life. After the 11th round of the tournament, Germany declared war on Russia, starting World War I. Efim and 10 other Russian players in the tournament were interned by Germany, not allowed to leave. He remained in Germany for the entirety of the war, eventually meeting his wife in the country. Following the war, he continued playing tournaments in Germany, where he won the 1919 Berlin tournament, the 1919 Stockholm tournament, and the 1921 Kiel tournament. At the time, people were saying that he was one of the top 4 players in the world, with the likes of current or future world champions, including Emanuel Lasker, Jose Raul Capablanca, and Alexander Alekhine. In 1924, he returned to his home country for the first time in 10 years. Since he had left, the February Revolution, the October Revolution, a civil war, and the formation of the Soviet Union had occurred, leaving a vastly different landscape than when he had originally left the country. He competed in the 1924 Soviet Union Championship, and he won. The next year, he repeated the feat of winning the 1925 Soviet Union Championship, then went back to Germany and won the 1925 German Championship. He is the only person to date who has won both national championships in the same year. In 1926, Efim established a permanent residency in Germany and left the USSR. The USSR viewed this as a treasonous act, and both he and Alexander Alekhine, who had defected a couple of years earlier, were deemed as non-persons and were blacklisted from all Soviet lists. All accomplishments and titles were wiped from the Soviet records. 2 years later, in April 1928, FIDE, the newly founded international chess body, was trying to gain control of the World Championship cycle. As it currently stood, the reigning world champion could pick his opponent based on whoever could afford the prize fund. FIDE attempted to change that and try to gain some credibility at the same time as an organization by putting together an event featuring some of the strongest players in the world. Their first match included Max Yu, an up-and-coming player, and Bogoljubov for a 10-game match with a first to 5.5 being the winner. Yu pulled ahead early, leading after 6 games, but Bogoljubov won games 8 and 10 to become the first champion of FIDE. Since the first match was so well received, a rematch of the two players was scheduled at the end of the year. Efim also won that match 5.5 to 4.5 and retained his title as champion of FIDE. Alexander Alekhine, the current world champion, took notice and offered Bogoljubov to be his challenger in the 1929 World Chess Championship that Bogoljubov accepted. The match took place in Germany, with the rules being the first to 15.5 points and 6 wins. Efim held his own early as they were tied after 6 games with 2 wins each. Then Alekhine started to run away, winning games 7, 8, 10, and 12, then holding on to that lead until game 25, when Alekhine won with the 15.5 points to retain his world championship title, but it was a very strong showing for Efim. In 1931, Efim played on board 1 for Team Germany, where they finished in 5th place and he secured an individual silver medal. In 1933, Germany organized their first national championship, where Efim finished with a score of 11.5 out of 15 to win the country's first national title. Shortly after that, the Nazis came to power in Germany. They shut down most social activities and forbade Efim from participating on the German national team or in any German championships since he was not of, quote, German blood. For propaganda purposes, the Nazis wanted to improve their international image, so they raised money for Bogoljubov to challenge Alexander Alekhine for the World Championship once again. At the time, most of the world was still going through some type of a depression, so not a lot of players could afford the prize fund required to fund the event. Alekhine, who was playing under the French flag at the time, accepted, and the 1934 World Championship was set. This rematch took place in Germany, but Efim did not do well. It took him 10 games for him to get his first win, and by that point, Alekhine already had a 3-game lead. It took another 13 games for him to win his second game, and he eventually lost the match 10.5 to 15.5. Many viewed this championship match as nothing more than an overglorified exhibition. In Alekhine's book, My Best Games of Chess, he said, quote, "This game, more than any other, proves how useless from the sporting point of view was the arrangement of this second match." End quote. In 1938, Bogoljubov tried joining the Nazi Party so his family could stay in Germany and his children could study at university. History is currently unclear on his opinions of the Nazis and the Nazi Party. Some say he did not want to play under the Nazi flag, but only did it because he felt he had to. Some say that he viewed Hitler's ideas with the same level of revulsion that he did to the Bolsheviks in the Soviet Union. Regardless, he did join and play under the Nazi banner, leaving a major stain on his reputation when he was alive and after his death. During World War II, Hans Frank, the Nazi governor-general of Poland, as part of the German expansion, invited Bogoljubov to Poland as a chess player and a translator. While in Poland in 1941, he played a 10-game match against Max Euwe, with Euwe emerging as the champion 6.5 to 3.5. 2 years later, while still in Poland, he split a 4-game match against Alekhine. Then after the war, he moved back to West Germany and was allowed to play for the German championships once again, with his play declining as he got older. In 1950, FIDE gained enough power as an organization to formalize the chess title system and announced an initial round of grandmasters to 27 players. Bogoljubov, a Soviet champion, a German champion, a 2-time World Championship challenger, and a world caliber player for more than a decade, was not one of them. The Soviet Union put pressure on FIDE to not give him the title, viewing him as politically compromised for his involvement in the Nazi Party. In 1951, after the West put significant pressure on FIDE, they awarded him the Grandmaster title under the German flag, one of 2 people to receive the title that year. In 1952, Efim Bogoljubov passed away in his sleep at the age of 63. After his death during the Soviet era of perestroika, he was added into the history books of his own country. Bogoljubov's imprint on the game can also be seen in the Bogo Indian opening, which is d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, and bishop b4 check. He also has a couple of quotes that have lingered around after his death. Quote, "When I am white, I win because I am white. When I am black, I win because I am Bogoljubov." And, quote, "To have a knight planted in your game at king 6, what we would call either e6 or e3, is worse than having a rusty nail in your knee." End quote. For our game this week, we are going back 100 years to the Breslau tournament of 1925. Efim Bogoljubov versus Sergei Tarrasch. Now, if we're ready, let's begin.
One, pawn to e4. Knight f6. 2. Pawn to e5. Knight d5. Three. Knight f3. Pawn to d6. 4. Pawn to d4. Bishop f5. Five. Bishop d3. Bishop g6. Six. Pawn to c4. Knight b6. Seven. Bishop captures g6. H captures g6.
After the move pawn h captures on g6, we are opening the file for the black rook. What would you do in this position as white?
Eight. Pawn to e6.
The move e6 is a really clever idea. It is a pawn sacrifice, but it also locks in the dark square bishop onto the f8 square. If black plays pawn f captures on e6, then the e6 and g6 pawns are weak, and the black king is stuck in the middle of the board.
Pawn to f6. Nine. Queen d3. Queen c8. Ten. Queen captures g6 check. King d8. Eleven. Queen f7. Knight captures c4. Twelve. Knight b to d2. Knight captures d2. Thirteen. Bishop captures d2. Pawn to g5.
After the move pawn to g5, the black king is in an awkward spot. The rook on h8 is the only developed piece, and white could castle in either direction. What would you do in white's shoes?
Fourteen. Pawn to d5.
d5 is a nice solidifying move. It locks in the e6 pawn, it prevents the d6 pawn from moving forward, and cuts off the knight from accessing the natural c6 square. With how disorganized the black pieces are, white does not have to commit to castling one way or another just yet. He can wait to see how the position shakes out before deciding where to put his king.
Pawn to c5. 15. Bishop c3. Pawn to g4. (16) Knight h4.
What does white have in mind with the move knight to h4? White would like to play knight g6, attacking the bishop on f8, as well as the pawn that is on e7. If black captures the knight on h4, the bishop on f8 is now undefended.
Rook captures h4. (17) Queen captures f8 check. King c7. (18) Queen captures e7 check. King b6. (19) Queen captures d6 check. King b5.
White has chased the king to the b5 square. How would you continue to put pressure in the attack?
(20) Pawn to a4. King c4. (21) Queen f4 check. King captures d5. (22) Castle queenside. King c6. (23) Queen d6 checkmate. White is victorious.
4 white pieces participated in this checkmate after sending the black king all the way around the board. Meanwhile, most of black's queenside pieces are still on their home squares. And this attack all started from that move, pawn to e6, back on move 8. People don't ask for the time period that they are born into or the life events that happen around them. Going from Russia to Germany at the exact moment a world war breaks out, later being removed from the history books of his own country, then not being allowed to play chess in his emigrated country of Germany, only to be ensnared in another world war, then highly encouraged to join the most infamous political party in history to let you play in a world championship match that would later prevent you from collecting the highest title in the chess world. It seemed like everywhere Efim Bogoljubov stepped, he landed on a landmine of history. So that is all that we have for this week. Tune in next time where we will continue to work on our blindfold skills and look at another game of the Masters.